2, 1. Cambridge Insider podcast time again. Hello, everybody. And awesome, as always, to have you with us. Mr. Craig Batson, how are you, buddy?
I am doing fantastic today. I got my Monday hoodie on. I'm very comfortable. It is a rainy Monday here. And most importantly, we're finally doing a podcast recording on my time. So we are doing it in the evening, which normally we're up at like 7 a.m. doing these.
Firstly, can we talk about something way more important than those false allegations and accusations? Let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, God.
Because the whole of Seattle, I believe, is in mourning this Monday.
No. We're okay. We're okay. And this is an international education focused podcast. So maybe we should get to that. Don't we have a guest today, Stephen?
Before we get to the guest, I did want to do this. I'm gonna be resilient. That's your word. I'm gonna push through. Give me a Super Bowl pick coming up in like 3 weeks' time. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, Super Bowl, huge football. It's a big thing in America. Give me your pick.
No, it's gonna be the Buffalo Bills versus the probably sadly the Green Bay Packers. It's gonna be really sad.
Wow. All right, that's an interesting pick. That's an interesting pick. I got the Packers winning it all. So maybe you and I are aligning on something.
It's a decent one. I do enjoy that this podcast comes out after this weekend's games. So we'll have our picks may just be totally wrong by this point.
Yeah, we could lose out by this weekend. We do have a guest, and I'm very excited for this guest because we got somebody coming to us all the way from Korea, Soyoen Moon, the associate director of global sales operations. Soyoen, welcome to the Cambridge Insider podcast.
Hello.
It's awesome to have you here. How is Korea on Tuesday morning there now?
Yeah, it is Tuesday. Lately I'm stuck at home, so I even don't know what day is it.
It's the same as Craig. He organizes things for weird days. We don't always know what's happening. He's late often, and he just blames it on the pandemic. So, Ian, do you maybe just before we get into some hard-hitting questions, want to tell our listeners a little bit about exactly what you do at the Cambridge Network?
In short, I'm overseeing the Korea and Vietnam offices, and we recruit students for U.S. schools and provide student support. For more details, I'm developing strategic position of U.S. partner schools and do marketing for them and recruit. Basically everything about Korean and Vietnamese students.
There we go. Excellent. Everything to do with Korean and Vietnam students.
Yep.
Any school officials that are listening that have had the privilege of interacting with Soyoen, she is an excellent asset to the team, and we're happy you made some time on your Tuesday morning to join us. Let's get straight into it. Soyoen, what at this moment is the status of recruitment in South Korea and Vietnam?
Actually, we were surprised that Korean students still went to America for this spring. Our number is just slightly lower than last spring's. But the type of schools that parents and students choose was a bit changed. Number-wise, not a big difference for Cambridge, luckily. I think Cambridge reacted pretty well in Korea when COVID hit America early last year. At the time, I got many good feedback from agents how responsible Cambridge was. So the number-wise, Cambridge didn't have big difference. But the overall market, Korean market itself is still quiet at this moment. So for fall, we barely started receiving inquiries and applications. So compared to before COVID, it is pretty quiet and slow, I can say. And for Vietnam, we had less students than last year's as well, and the market is still quiet. I think Vietnam is pretty safe from COVID up to date compared to Korea and compared to Korea and America. So maybe the fear toward COVID might be more than Korean or Americans. And Vietnamese visa passing rate was not high enough compared to Korean or Chinese. So the situation that U.S. embassies was closed for several months last year also affected to our recruitment, I think. So for fall, like Korea, we started receiving inquiries and applications, but still we can say it is pretty quiet in Vietnam too.
Okay, okay. A lot of information. Thank you. Just a quick follow-up question about the consulates and visa processing. Are those consulates open? Are they processing visas at the moment?
Yeah, now it's
Okay.
fine.
Good news. Good news.
And is it hard for these students to get appointments, or is it, the typical 2-3 weeks in advance?
It's longer. For Vietnam, it takes longer than that. And also, we have many deferred students who need to apply visa again. So yeah, it's not easy to have the interview.
So it's difficult, but it's possible. Okay, so that's good to know, because I talk about this with my school officials a lot. In China, I mean, they're not even processing visa applicants, so we got to get through all the deferred students before we can even start getting to the new students. So that's a big hang up, and it doesn't seem to be a problem in Korea and Vietnam, which is good.
Yeah, we still had new students who got visa and then went to America this January and last December, so we don't have problem with that.
So I think that's a pretty good starting place to think about right now, is as the Chinese market is frozen, the Korean and Vietnamese markets might be a little bit slower than previous years, but it sounds like they're still kind of, open for business. Students can still come. I know, we had a number of Korean students come over the winter break. We have students entering the country and getting in okay. So that is fantastic to hear. And I think a lot of that comes from your great job promoting America. I know you're a big fan of the country, and working to convince students to come. So the one thing I want to say is, it sounds like Korean Vietnam is an area where schools might be able to attract students if they're able to, promote themselves correctly. Now, what would you suggest schools can do to attract these students?
Well, strong schools with reasonable price. And I hope the school is open to discuss with us to find out their selling points to our markets. These two markets, people are a bit sensitive to price. So sometimes the schools and parents see differently about their school. So in this case, for us, it's difficult to meet schools' expectation on the recruitment. So it will be great if the school is willing to discuss the selling points together with us. And I recommend them to revisit their fee structure, especially in this difficult time. Many schools want international students and they are willing to provide scholarship. So now we have more competitive schools in fee-wise. So
and let me take a break right there and break down that a bit. So when you're talking about, hey, we need, cheaper and more competitive prices, give me a ballpark kind of average price that we should have. I mean, we have a diverse group of school officials that are listening. What's a good price for a school?
It's kind of hard to answer. Like, I can give you general idea, but every school is different. So basically what we said reasonable prices, they are not charging too much to international students. So basically, I always look at their local students' tuition first, and then starting from there. Like, even their local students' tuition is 20,000. I'm not asking them to provide scholarship to like 10,000 or something like that. I'm not saying that, but so.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're looking at making sure your domestic and your international, at least Korean Vietnamese tuition, are similar. But give me that top line number. Like, what is a parent gonna say? I have a number in my head, but I want to hear what the experts say. Like, what's that number that schools need to be under that they're going to be able to recruit students?
For Korean, it's under 40,000, including homestay and everything. And for Vietnamese, under 33,000 would be great.
Yeah. And I think we've been promoting that number to our school officials for a long time. You've given presentations on that number. I have an old presentation of yours from, I think, 2019 or 2018, and it was something like it was a monstrous number. It was like 50% of Korean students went to schools under $35,000, and like 80% went to schools under $40,000. So those are very hard numbers. We got to be as low as possible.
So Soyoen, just to maybe for some of our school partners that are listening, this might be a good opportunity just to quickly touch on the fact that Cambridge, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Cambridge, for any students that make use of our homestay, also offers scholarships for those students coming in. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you break that down a little bit more, or is there any further detail you can provide on that?
You mean fee breakdowns?
Sure.
Well, but as I said, it really depends on the school, and especially the 2019 that Craig just mentioned about my presentation. At that time, what I usually do is the school list with the scholarship. When I talk to school officials or our US staff talk to school officials, I want them to give some result because they provide scholarship. So that's why I more focus on those schools. I think that year we had really good schools with lower price. So that's why it's 80% was under 40,000. Sorry. Yeah.
So that makes sense. So it is really about reaching out to your program manager, saying that you're willing to be in this cheaper market, and finding out what you and Cambridge Network can do together to work together to recruit students. And it sounds like you're not taking on just any school that can get in at that price. It's we want to make sure they're a good school that will succeed at that price.
You're right.
So, okay, so price, that's a great way we can attract Korean and Vietnamese students. What else are they looking for? In how can we help schools attract these students? Is there certain marketing materials or certain clubs that students are looking for? Are they sports based? What are we looking for?
Well, really, honestly, we are promoting schools to agents or parents, right? And then for us as sales staff, the communication with the school is one of the important thing. So if school responses well, or we get answers from the school fast enough, we tend to promote that school more than other schools, which doesn't do that. Once we send students to US school, we get many questions and context from the parents. Based on questions, we contact the school staff. But if we don't get answer right time, or it's really hard to reach out to the school staff, we are in difficult position. The parents keep calling us and asking us questions, but our answer is always same, like wait for the school's answer. Then sounds like we are really not responsible, right? So we are people, so we prefer the school.
And that makes sense. So it sounds like good customer service and good outcomes for your current students is what's going to attract more Korean and Vietnamese students moving forward. So this is something that we've been talking about. I've been doing in my yearly school meetings that I've been having, where we're talking about the best way to recruit students is to bring successful stories of current students to us. So once you get, your current students, use them to create success stories. And then in the Korean and Vietnamese market, it's when you get a student, don't assume that you have that student forever. Know that you're going to need to support the family that entire time and answer the questions they have. Make sure you're checking in, making sure you're providing that support. And that's something that you, Soyoen, and our wonderful colleague, Jung Yoon, in Korea do for these families. And you guys talk to them and you talk to their agents, and we do conference calls and work with them throughout the year.
Yeah, and also I want to add one more thing about the communication. If they provide regular updates about the school or community or students, it would be great. We know more, then we can promote with more confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Craig, very good point. Something we touch on every week is how important, promoting those success stories is and getting that good communication coming through. So important for all of our school partners. So you heard it directly from Soyoen. Make sure that that's something that you're doing as a partner if you are serious about this market.
That absolutely. So the last question I want to ask you is, put our listeners in the shoes of a Korean parent. What are the top 3 things that they look for in a school? Are we talking location, price, outcomes, community support? What are they looking for? Are they only sending kids to California? What's up?
Well, after COVID, things changed. I think the safety is the most important thing. How school reacted or communicate with the parents, it's more important. So in the beginning I mentioned that the type of school has been changed after COVID. So lately safety is the most important thing. And of course location is important, but it's not the main factor, preferred factor. But yeah, and reasonable price and matriculation is important, but it's not the main thing. So basically safety and how to take care of our students is the most important thing.
So that makes sense. So we're doing safety, making sure we're safe in COVID times. Then we're doing student support, success stories, hearing everything that they've done. And then number 3, we're thinking price. I that's what it sounds like to me, because if you're over that, we're not going to be able to place you with students.
Soyoen, would it be advisable, just as a follow-up and probably final question as we head to the end, would it be advisable for schools, when you talk about safety, and something we've been promoting on the podcast is for them to perhaps record videos to show what safety measures they do have in place on campus? Would that be something that the Korean and Vietnamese market would like from schools?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So, for all the school partners, Craig and I are not lying through our teeth. You heard it from Soyoen, from Soyoen herself. If you do have a minute or two to, explain to our markets how safe the campus is and some of the procedures that are in place, feel free to send those to your program manager. Soyoen Moon, thank you so much for joining us on the Cambridge Insider podcast. Any final thoughts from your side? Anything that you'd like to share with our listeners?
No, it was really fun. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a lot more relaxed than people think in the beginning. If people come on, they're a little nervous, but actually Craig and I are very welcome and gracious hosts.
Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't swear at all.
As are we. I'll tell you who's the most glad is executive producer Dean. He doesn't want to do late night editing. So
yeah, that's it. That's what I like the most. I'm happy Soyoen joined us today. She was very, very nervous about joining us today, and I think we'll have to have her back on. She might not be the funniest guest, but maybe next time we'll get her to tell a joke instead of just giving straight answers to all of our questions.
Yep.
I think our listeners might be sick of Stephen and I's bad jokes throughout the podcast, or like when we have a guest on, making ourselves laugh. At least you get straight to the point. This is one that they can send to their, bosses. We can send this one to headmasters, not, the fun directors of international admissions.
All right. Again, I'm going to have to rip the microphone away from Craig Batson because he's just throwing us under the bus right now. All right, Mr. Batson, in conclusion, any final thoughts as we say goodbye?
No, that was it. I was saving it, but you asked Soyoen if she had final thoughts, and I thought, is he cutting me out of this podcast? And then you're going to replace me with somebody.
All right. I would never do that. I said that previously. You've used that line before. We're way over. It's way past bedtime. That's all I can say on the East Coast. To all of our listeners, as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in, listening, leaving suggestions, liking, sharing this podcast. We certainly enjoy doing it for you. So drop us a line and let us know what you want to hear from us next. And until next time, bye-bye, everybody.